Welcome back to a new movie review. This is Goku-san DBZ. As I said, this is the first of a couple of horror-themed reviews for the month of October. I also have a horror-themed video game review working on right now for a Nintendo Switch review, Deathmark. Stay tuned for that, and this is the review for, of course, the 1990s miniseries Stephen King's It, and I hope you enjoy my choice of music, Pennywise's theme. So with that said, first up, Stephen King's It. Of course, like many things Stephen King related, it has a lot of certain specific signature things known in many Stephen King things. One, unfortunately, definitely no complex villains, very one-dimensional bad guys. No surprise here, like the bullies and stuff, one-dimensional. Not so much on Pennywise, though. Also, want to mention, of course, this was the 1990. This was a TV miniseries, a two-part event thing. It was like 2 hours each night. So, remove commercial breaks and stuff, a little over 3 hours. I believe this was about like 3 hours and 10 minutes, 3 hours and 5. Okay, 3 hours and 7 minutes. So, with that said, a few signatures also this series is known for. Obviously, one of them specifically is, of course, you have to understand the special effects budget on this was not great given it was a TV, plus it was 1990, so it had a lot of limitations. Though they were smart how they did stuff with the makeup, I thought was pretty well executed. The makeup work, the clay animation for some of the special effects was good. And that was probably the most affordable because CG really wasn't a thing in 1990. Wouldn't be until a few years later with films like Terminator 2 Judgment Day that would really push forward CG effects. So this had a lot of definitely limitations compared to the newer films. I think in those areas, given the limitations, it's very well executed. Of course, like anything Stephen King, takes place in Maine, specifically Derry, Maine, which makes sense because Stephen King is originally from the state of Maine. Now, the Pennywise character, or Bean, that takes the form of course, Pennywise the Clown, is actually, we find out later on, but that'll be a discussion for another day. But as for this, I think it's pretty loyal for the most part to the book. Of course, there's many issues from the book you cannot really bring into the movie format, especially not the limitations of a miniseries. This would be the equivalent to probably TV-14, I would say, in today's rating system. And I still think it's great. Main thing is the charm effect this miniseries has. More specifically, of course, Tim Curry as Pennywise is the greatest part. And for me, it's my personal favorite Tim Curry performance that he ever did. For me, anyways. But I like the part, of course, at the beginning where he talks to Georgie, and he's like, I'm not supposed to talk to strangers. Well, Georgie, I'm Pennywise the Dancing Clown. Your name is Georgie, so we know each other now, right? And, then tries to go away, and he's like, don't you want your boat? Don't you want it? Don't you want it? And, of course, grabs the kid's arm, and then you see razor teeth coming towards, and then we have a blur out effect, and then see obviously casket being lowered into the ground, funeral, because since it was a TV miniseries and everything, censorship and everything, there's a lot of stuff you really cannot show that they were able to show a decent amount. But one of the biggest, I think, problems this film has is how Tim Curry or Pennywise always said, you'll float down here, you'll all float down here. Yet there was nobody actually floating, where in the newer movie, there actually was people floating. So that phrase made more sense in the newer film than it did in the original, though it was pulled from the book, to be fair. In all honesty, to be fair to Tim Curry's Pennywise. And he is the best part of the film. He stole the whole movie, in my opinion. Or miniseries, whatever. But I really, for the most part, I liked a lot of the kid actors. It's by far the best part of the film. Like, of course, other things. There's lots of flashbacks, and that's kind of a norm when it comes to Stephen King work. And if you've seen many Stephen King movies as well as read more than a few of his novels, you would know this is definitely a signature of his, as well as the fact he also, of course, liked to bash on religion as well, to be fair. Though it's understanding when you realize where he was in the 1980s when he wrote this book, of course. Now, with that said, my main gripes with this movie is more in part two, with mostly revolving around the adults. Of course, of the adult actors, what's most interesting, or one of the most interesting to me, is the actress who plays, of course, the adult version of course, the main female character of the Losers Club. Of course, she would later on, about a little over 10 years later, would become none other than the mother of Clark Kent. She would become Martha Kent, of course, in Smallville. Just a fun little fact. But this film does definitely have a lot of ups and does have lots of downs, but overall, I think the film is really good, and you have so many quotable lines like classic "Beep beep Georgie," or how about "Excuse me, but do you have Prince Albert a can? You do, well you better go and let the poor guy out. Aha, aha, aha." Sorry. And of course that's that Nostalgia Craig pointed out in his review and stuff. But I will say, nevertheless, this film has a great amount of charm to it. Maybe it's because it has a nostalgia factor for me personally, because I grew up with this film from the 90s. And so I've always known it, and even though technically it's a miniseries, it's, fun fact, one of my top 10 favorite movies of all time. So it really has a very biased for me, even though I do admit there's a lot of limitations and definitely some issues in the pacing department on areas and stuff. I think it could have been better, but I think given the limitations it had and the time period and everything you take into consideration, and then the greatness that is Tim Curry, overall, I give this movie an A+. I think it's a great film. If you've never seen the original and you've seen the newer, honestly, if you're just even a little bit curious, I highly recommend checking out Stephen King's It. It's a great film. I can't recommend it enough. Like I said, the second half has the biggest issues. The first half is superb. And a lot of good child actors, in my opinion, for the most part, in this film. Like I said, one of my biggest gripes is the bullies being one-dimensional, and at least the newer film did fix, actually, some of those issues. But still, nothing beats the charm of Tim Curry as Pennywise the Clown. Especially the part where he starts dancing down the street when the book comes to life, and he tries to use his hand and grab him through the book and stuff. That's just great. I mean, there's a lot of great moments in this movie involving Tim Curry. Like when he transforms into a werewolf for a scene, or other elements. I think one of the freakiest parts is actually when they're in the Chinese restaurant towards the end, and the fortune cookies open up like an eyeball in one, a roach in another. I don't like those things. God, issue. But, and then other weird stuff out of the other fortune cookies. Let's just say, yeah, just a little. But anyways, that's my review for the 1990 classic Stephen King's It. And I want to quickly announce another Halloween-themed movie review coming next week, or more specifically for Halloween week. I'm going to be reviewing Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas. So stay tuned for this review in the near future, and I'll see y'all next time. Same YouTube time, same YouTube channel. Beep beep, Richie.